Have we had any more, Rachel?
Yep, we have apologies from Councillor Sue Jones.
Right, okay. Righty-ho. Disclosure of personal and prejudicial interest, members? No? Okay, any officers? No, okay. Item 3 is the one normally that is presented at scrutiny panels, and that is the provision of whip votes and declarations of party whips. Item 4 is the minutes of the meeting of the last meeting. Everybody read them and are satisfied that they are a true and accurate record of what went on? Okay. I don't see anybody disagreeing with that. Okay. Then we go on to item 5, which is public questions. Rachel, we haven't had any public questions, have we? Which is a bit of a surprise, really. Okay, then we go on to item 6, which is the Q4 end of year performance monitoring report. Can I welcome Councillor David Hopkins, who's the cabinet member and deputy leader for corporate services and performance, and also welcome Mr. Lee Wenham, who is the principal officer. So, David, do you want to say a few words before Lee comes in?
Yeah, if I could, Chair, I just want to note the good progress, particularly about the corporate plan and the 75% on target. I would say it would be remiss of me if I didn't identify some of the pressures throughout the authority, particularly in social care and in housing. I think it's commendable to our staff there under the pressure. They're working extremely hard. A lot of work going into it, and I would say some additional resources, particularly in social care. So I've got nothing to add to the report and then to add over to Lee, who will take us through step by step. But I would like to put on my record thanks to Lee and Richard Rowlands as well for preparing this report.
Thank you, David. Mr. Wenham, Lee Wenham.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll just quickly summarise the report for us. So it's the Q4, but also the end of year report on our performance, and it looks at how we've achieved against our corporate wellbeing objectives, which are set out in our corporate plan. It's split into a number of areas. You have corporate plan steps, the success measures and the PIs. So overall, as Councillor Hopkins said, we've achieved 75% of our corporate plan steps. They're either green or complete. 64% of our success measures are the same, either green or complete. And 64% of the PIs which we are able to measure are either on or near target. In terms of our risks and issues, they are broadly stable, our strategic risks and issues. We have some red rated in areas like safeguarding, homelessness, net zero 2030 and our waste strategy. In terms of our 6 corporate wellbeing objectives, I'll just quickly summarise where we are in terms of performance. So starting with safeguarding people from harm, we've seen strong performance in areas like workforce development, early help and integrated care. Social services have a kind of grow your own pathway, which is improving recruitment and retention of staff. So that's really pleasing to see. Our reablement outcomes are proving to be strong. But we still have, obviously, red risk around safeguarding, and that's mainly due to our workforce and capacity pressures. Moving on to improving education and skills, we've seen steady improvement in attendance and also in our Welsh medium provision. Although some attendance issues remain in areas like our NEETs at 16, nursery and reception learners in Welsh, and our pupil referral unit. So we've had some missed attendance targets in those areas. The risks in education are around our kind of education offer and capital funding, and these are rated as amber and they remain stable. Other issues are our kind of resourcing and delivery of our strategic programme for sustainable communities for learning QED. That's a red risk, but you'll have seen some notable kind of progress in recent times with proposals for the special school, Bryn Tawe. And also there's a report due to Cabinet this week, which will be looking at investment in Bishop Vaughan and Gowerton as proposals to move forward. Then our third corporate objective around transforming our economy and infrastructure. There's been good progress in our major regeneration projects. You'd be aware 71-72 Kingsway recently had its official opening. The Debenhams site. The strip out work is underway there. And also we've got on-site prep work going on at Carlton Gardens. Our events and tourism programme has proved really strong, and that's coming just after our recent air show. So all quarterly PIs in this objective were met. The risks around regeneration delivery remains amber, and that's probably due to the macroeconomic pressures. But despite that, what we expect to see in the coming year is further progress in Debenhams, at Storther, and Block B, among other things. Our fourth corporate objective is around tackling poverty and enabling communities. And on the good side here, we've seen over £1 million in grants issued to a number of organisations across Swansea to try and improve people's lives. We've got about 50 organisations who are providing school holiday meals. There's funding for things like the Men's Sheds initiatives, also with summer activities. And we have about 70 locations which are offering free period products. We've also managed to support over 660 people into employment, and the refreshed tackling poverty strategy is ready for consultation. There are some risks, and the red risks in this area around homelessness and housing supply, and there are some amber risks around housing delivery and poverty impact. On the fifth objective, which is around delivering nature recovery and climate change, members may or may not have seen a report this morning, which has just been published by Climate Council Action, and it's highlighted Swansea as the best performing local authority in Wales, and it's particularly praised our performance around energy efficient housing and also renewable technologies. So that's a timely kind of report which looked at the same period in time as our performance. But from our own report, we can see that things like we've planted more than 340 trees, 94% of our street lights are now converted to LEDs, and our biodiversity and green infrastructure is progressing well. So most targets have been met, but we also have some amber ratings due to things like resource constraints. And there are some red risks around the waste strategy and being able to deliver that. But there have been some recent initiatives in waste, and you'll have seen the recent recruitment initiative, and that's gone well. But also net zero 30 remains a red rated issue. So despite that report this morning saying we're doing the best out of all Welsh authorities, I think across the board there are things like funding and capacity issues which will affect local authorities achieving 2030. Then the final one, which is around transformation and financial resilience. All of the programmes are embedding well, and we've seen nice improvements in things like digital services where we've exceeded targets with the uptake. Our complaints handling remains strong, but then areas to be aware of is things like our sickness absence was below target, and also Swansea account uptake. In terms of ongoing risks in this area, obviously financial stability, our workforce capacity, cyber security and ICT disaster recovery remain our kind of key risks in this area. That, Chair, is a very quick summary of how we've performed and the risks in those kind of 6 areas. If there are any questions, either myself or Councillor Hopkins will do our best to answer them. But if there's specific ones regarding some initiatives in services, we may need to get the answers from department heads.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Are there any members who wish to have any questions? I think if there's no members, then what I'd like to say is that some of the areas, obviously the risks are greater in social services than in any other department, and I accept the fact that what Councillor Hopkins is saying, that the resources are also stretched in that area. And I think one of the things that we will do in the letter is highlight the fact that because it's a demand service, that it is a risk that we acknowledge and we understand. And I think all the council needs to understand that risk in social services and the way it develops. I think the other point is we're grateful at the fact that there are 2 scrutiny panels looking in child and family services and adult services. I think that tells the public and also lets other outside agencies realise how serious this council is about social services and the scrutiny of such. And I think that's very laudable. I have two people with, three now. Councillor David Jenkins, you were the first up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Great report, and there's some fantastic positives in there. Apologies if I'm just picking up on not one of them, but just to ask on that page 13 or page 39, whichever one you look at, on that social cohesion, that's a bit worrying then. If we don't manage to continue to improve community involvement and break down barriers, and we could see, sort of unrest. Can you tell me the top two initiatives that you're doing to make sure that the feelings have not been heard and are listened to? What's the top two that you're doing there to make sure that that unrest doesn't happen, please?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jenkins. I think probably what we'll need to do is just go back to the department and get you an answer, if that's okay. There is a lot of work going on. I wouldn't want to rank them myself. I'll speak to the department and we'll provide you with an answer.
That's perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next, Councillor Mark Tribe.
Thank you, Chair. The sick absence policy, and unfortunately, is heading in the wrong direction. Are there any initiatives to reverse that trend? And is working from home part of the problem with that? Thank you.
Again, thank you, Councillor Tribe. I'll probably speak to the head of HR, Rachel Davis, to get some detailed feedback for you on the kind of work that's being done in that area. But I know a lot of work is underway. There's been some investment recently in our OC Health and our stress management and counselling team to ensure that we getting in there early, that we're dealing with the backlog of sickness, but also trying to get ahead of the game. But I'll get some information from Rachel and I'll make sure that information is given back to you.
Thanks, Lee.
Okay, Councillor Peter Black.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just on the social services thing, once I accept that there is a panel, there are panels which will be looking at this. I just want to confirm that these figures will be put before that panel so that they're aware of the particular issues with regards to performance directly, and where that's going to be an item on that panel. And secondly, what sort of resources or whatever is going to be needed to sort of turn this around. I think those are sort of questions which the panel needs to ask, and I think that they need to have specific oversight of that section of this report.
I think we all agree with that, and I think that will have to go into a letter to Councillor David Hopkins, who will then pass it on to social services, I would think.
Yeah, but is this report going to go to those panels?
Again, I think we'd have to ask Lee or David.
Yeah, I was asking Lee, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, can I just say, I think that'll be a recommendation out of today's meeting as well, but I will ensure that I send that information across to the relevant cabinet member to ensure that they are reported to both scrutiny panels.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Any other comments or questions? No? Okay, well, thank you both for your input. We now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is regeneration reports. I'm not sure who's taking this. Phil?
Yeah, I'm happy to just to introduce the report, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Chair.
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Lee Wenham has done a great job in terms of covering some of the things I was going to mention anyway as part of his performance reporting. This is one of the council's key wellbeing objectives, and the report that you've got, I hope it's very self-explanatory. It's been set out deliberately to make it easy to cover the whole programme and just give a sort of snapshot of progress. So you've got the projects listed there, you've got the description of each project, and then you've got the key updates, which is that sort of third column, and then some of the milestones that we're working to. And as I said, Lee has covered the main ones and given a sort of snapshot. So I wasn't going to go through the whole thing, Chair, if that's okay. But maybe the easiest thing is just to take it page by page and pick out any questions that the panel have, and we can deal with it that way. I've got Lee Richards here and Paul Ralph, who are both far more involved in the detail than myself. And if that's okay, we could do it page by page and take any questions.
Okay. Councillor Black, you have a question? You're on mute, Peter.
My question's in the last page. Do you want to wait till we get there?
Yes, please. Okay. Right. So if we go through page for page, if we go through the this page after page 71, it's the City Regeneration report. First one, Copper Bay, phase 1, and block B and Swansea Central northern block. Are there any questions from members on that page? I think the only thing I would ask on that is about the Swansea Central block. Is it 2F? Can't read it probably. Yeah, Urban Splash working.
Oh yeah, the Urban Splash blocks.
Yeah. When are we going to have any sort of feedback on that? I accept you may have had it in corporate briefing in a private session, but do we know anything about that? Because again, with respect, it goes, Block B is a flexible office accommodation, which, you know, we built in quite a lot of offices. We've got 71, 72 the Kingsway. We got the new office block on the Princess Way. And now we see Swansea Central North. It has an indication of to create modern office for alternative use with partnership with Urban Splash. So, first of all, when will we have details for the public consumption on that? And how many more offices are we going to build?
Okay. So I was going to invite Lee Richards if he wanted to comment on it.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, thanks, Chair. We are currently awaiting proposals from Urban Splash on those blocks. They are the expectation is they'll land with us around late autumn time. This is part of the SPA agreement that we have with them. So the process is they make a proposal called a stage 1 proposal. That's a sort of a conceptual idea with appraisals on ideas. We're working with them currently, working those proposals up, and it's a mixture of uses for those areas. So within the current planning context for that area, it can be offices, it could equally be some residential. So again, we're just working through the proposal with Urban Splash. Once we get that stage 1 from them, then they will be taken to the cabinet report in and around that date, and then that's the opportunity to discuss that further with scrutiny later on this year.
Okay, so there's a possibility that it may not be offices. It could be various other.
That's correct, Chair. Yeah, you're right. You know, the office market nationally at the moment has slowed down since the pandemic. We do have interest in office accommodation in Swansea, as has been shown in 71, 72, where that building is now 80% let, with good occupiers, and there is interest currently in Block B moving forward equally. So there is still interest in Swansea. I think we're offering the right product that doesn't exist, but equally we are very mindful, as you said, about the amount of office space available, and we've got a good range now of accommodation to suit all needs and purses, from the Albert Hall all the way through in terms of flexible office space to grade A office space in 71, 72.
We have got grade A office space, haven't we, in Princess Way, in that new development there. I think it's Princess Gate it's called. I'm not sure.
It is. That's the private development by Ian. Yeah, it's slightly different. It's probably it's a good quality office. You would call it grade A, but if you were actually grading a grade A, 71, 72 is probably slightly above that.
Right, okay. What about parking for these office developments? Now, I know obviously 71, 72 the Kingsway doesn't necessarily have dedicated parking. I assume it's got some, but what about Princess Way? Has that got any at the rear of that building?
There is some car parking to the rear. As you may be aware, Ian Morgan and Morganstone, who delivered the copper gate scheme, they also own the Princess House.
Yeah.
And the car parking to the rear, there's dedicated spaces there. But of course, each application that comes forward has to have a transportation plan that sits behind that. And they're currently there for the amount of office space that's available. There's sufficient car parking in the city centre to address that.
Well, in the multi-stories, etc.
That's right. Yeah, in close proximity.
Okay, thank you, Lee. The next page is Castle Square, Skyline, Cooper Bay Hotel, and the Kingsway. Phil or Lee, whichever. Are there any questions from members on either of these projects? The only thing I would ask, if I can't see any hands up, the question I would ask beyond Castle Square, obviously it's evolved into a different thing than it was in the initial conception, which was a different layout. When will we have the finished layout presented before members? Because I understand that we did have in the planning application some details, but I don't think members had fully details. If we could send it out to them.
Yeah, we can share that information, Chair.
Yes, we can do that.
We're on site now, and things are moving forward, but we can share that information so that everyone's got the layout as you've requested. No problem.
Okay, thank you for that. Obviously, Skyline, there's a debate about that later on in closed session, but in the open session, you can see what's happening there. On Copper Bay, the hotel, where are we actually with the legal agreement and the program with the developer? We have been here before a couple of times, and I'm wondering if we re-advertise this, and we had another company come forward. So where are we with it now, Phil or Lee, whichever?
Yeah, I'll let Lee pick that one up as well, if that's okay.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Phil. Yeah, thank you, Chair. We've agreed heads of terms with the new developer, so we went back out to the market. We tendered, and we had a very good response actually, because obviously we've delivered the arena, so we had some good data and statistics regarding footfall and around that. So the response that we had was quite strong, and equally beneficially, the brand groups that were looking to actually operate there were at a higher level than we did originally. So that's the positive. With all leisure activity at the moment, including hotels, funding across the UK is difficult. So we're just working through that process at the moment. We've almost concluded that. We're just crossing T's, dotting I's, and then hopefully quite shortly we'll be able to share with everybody who the developer is, including the program. Currently, we're aiming to try to get the planning applications going to run, because there's already a reserve matters planning application agreed. This would be progressed this year and hopefully get onto the site early part of next year.
Okay, thank you. Just for members' benefit, the hotel is developed by one company, and then another company come in to actually run it. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's the way it works. Yeah, a developer actually builds the hotel in simplistic terms. You've then got an operator that operates it with one of the brands. So one of the national brands then would put their name behind the hotel.
Have we had agreement from the Welsh government to have the Welsh Tourist Board to give us a help with funding to raise the standard up to 3 or 4 star?
We are in discussion with them, and they are part of the process regarding funding. Yes.
Okay. Right. Well, thank you very much for that.
That's okay.
Then the 71, 72, the Kingsway. Anyone, any questions? I think Lee has actually answered some of the questions on that, and we are waiting for other people to come along. Nice to see that Mowbray Yard's on site, and we will be opening it shortly. That will be a very nice gesture, I have to say. The next page is City Waterfront Civic Centre.
Sorry, Will Thomas has got his hand up.
Oh, sorry, I apologise. Sorry, Councillor Thomas, carry on.
No problem. Thanks, Chair. Thanks. Just wondering, with the access through to
Oxford Street,
the shopping arcade on the side there, what was happening with that? Because I know we were planning to put an access in on there. I'm just wondering if there's any update on that. Thanks.
Yeah, it's part of the process at the moment. We are considering that as part of the wider regeneration and placemaking. So we're currently liaising with the owners' representatives there, how we take that forward. And hopefully we'll be able to report back on an agreement on how we address that in the next month or so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Will. Okay, anyone else? Right, the next page is City Waterfront Civic Centre, Swansea City Centre Placemaking, and St Thomas Waterfront Strategic City Centre Flood Risk, Debenhams and Velindre. So are there any, Lee, have you got any comments on this page?
Just to advise everybody that Urban Splash have made, I mentioned earlier about the proposal process. So we've now got a proposal which came to us at the end of June for the Civic Centre, which, as you appreciate, is a mixed-use scheme, residential, commercial. We as a team are reviewing that currently. And it's going to take a little while for us to do that because there's a lot of information, with the aim then of reporting back to Cabinet later on this year, and obviously an opportunity for scrutiny for us to run through that proposal with you in a little bit more detail.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Black, you have your hand up.
Yeah, on the TAN 15 item, is the need for an outline business case being brought about by the new TAN 15, or was that already in the pipeline?
No, that's something we intend to do. So the TAN 15, the current change which has been put forward, suggests that that local authorities, some of the responsibilities passed back on to them in terms of the determination of pre-applications and planning applications moving forward. So importantly, we know that we have to improve our flood defences, especially around the river, where the river meets the sea at the near to Sainsbury's there. So we're in the process at the moment. We've secured some funding monies to actually take that forward to understand exactly what we need to do to protect the city moving forward over the next 50, 75 years.
So so what you're doing at the moment is a scoping exercise. Yeah.
So that's been undertaken, the scoping exercise. We now need to take it to the next phase. So we've identified the grant money, and we're talking to a specialist company that did the original scoping to actually take that scoping into an output report of what needs to be done to address the potential of overtopping in that area.
So given the cost of the Mumble scheme, are we talking similar type of costs involved here, or less than that?
Don't know, to be honest. That's part of the exercise moving forward. We know we've got to strengthen the defence near to where the Sailbridge site is. That's the area where it currently overtops, where fluvial meets tidal. So we know that the wall has to increase there. Part of this exercise is to understand, does that have to be a permanent increase in size, or could it be a management exercise where if a flood will take place, then you can put those barriers in place? So again, I think there are options there. We just need to work through the options and the cost then with the consultant.
And what sort of timescale, so we have some sort of answers on that?
If you look at, as an example, Mumbles, to do that full exercise took around about 9 to 12 months.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? I have one couple of things to ask about. One is the city centre placemaking plan. We've had quite a number. I can't remember how many exactly placemaking plans we've had for the city centre. So what is this going to entail, and what are we looking at in this particular scoping exercise or regeneration scheme?
So if I can answer that, Chair, if you all recall, the current policy that the council works to is the city centre framework document, the SCARF.
Yeah.
So that's now over 10 years old, and everything that we've been able to deliver in the city centre has followed the principles and the outline within the SCARF document. So local authorities across Wales now have to create placemaking plans across their cities and towns. Ours replaces the SCARF. So a considerable amount of consultation has taken place over the last 6-7 months to try to put a shape to what is the development of Swansea moving forward for the next 10 years. So the placemaking plan currently is a replacement of our SCARF, and will give guidance to developers, investors on zones and the shape of areas in Swansea that we'd like to progress. In terms of timing on that, as I said, there's been a great deal of consultation. The consultant team have a draft document that we're just reviewing at the moment because it's probably a little bit too long. And we are undertaking a number of sessions. I think there was a session on placemaking plan at the last scrutiny meeting recently that they did with Gail Evans. Tom did, I think, an update for you on the LDP, and Gail did a bit of an update for you on the placemaking plan. The idea is that once that's in a position in the next couple of months, you reconsult with it to tell everybody that's been involved what we're going to do and what the feedback is. And then we'll look to take that to Cabinet later this year to get that supported. And then that will become just trying to decide whether it'll be a policy document or how it'll be related to the LDP moving forward.
I think one of the questions that was asked in that session of scrutiny was who and how many people were consulted. And I have to say I was quite taken aback that we hadn't had an answer to that yet anyway. I'm sure we will get an answer to that at some stage. But the one thing that was quite noticeable was that the consultation exercise, although it dealt with some businesses in the city centre and also other businesses, there was very little consultation with ordinary members of the public and with some elected members. And I did ask that question, and I think it's one of the problems we have with the consultation exercise. It doesn't actually hit the right sort of people, because we get criticised all the time, as you can well imagine, about the city centre. And when you ask people and they all got different views, well, why don't they come forward and say it in a consultation exercise? But I take your point, and we'll wait and see what comes back from the consultants.
Yeah, and I will respond, Chair. Apologies for that. The response was considerable. We did a huge marketing exercise beforehand to tell everybody about the consultation process. I can't remember off the top of my head the figures, but the public consultation process took place in the old Cranes building. We employed Urban Foundry to undertake that for us. There were a number of workshop sessions that took place, and as I said, the response was considerable. So I will get those figures for you. So I don't fully agree that the public weren't involved. They certainly were on this occasion, and they gave us really good feedback. So we'll just do a note for scrutiny in the committee, and we'll feed that information back for you for information.
Thank you, Lee. I've got people's hand up. Councillor Mark Tribe.
Thank you, Chair. Lee, with regards to the Velindre element, I had confirmation this morning that they're upgrading the railway track between Llangabella and San Samlet, but a bit disappointed. They didn't mention any news about a railway hub, with Velindre being the ideal choice. Have you got any news regarding that issue, mate? Thank you.
I don't at the minute. It's always part of the plan that Valinda would be part of that exercise. Simply, but the leader. I'm sure. I'm glad he's there. He can come in and answer that one. You're on mute, Rob.
You're on mute, Rob.
Yeah, Chair, if you're happy, I'll pick up that point. So yes, if you recall, way back in the day, I think the then Secretary of State, Alan Kens, announced money for a station at Balindra. There's no evidence there was actually any money to back the announcements physically in a pot of waiting to be deployed. We've been very clear that on its own, a station at Balindra would not service the area well, because it would likely increase journey times. That's the evidence from the traffic modelers, because it would drag people out to a station which is not connected to anything. We are very keen to see Balindra form a station as part of a metro network, which is then connected to a number of other railway stations across the area. That work has been undertaken by Transport for Wales. So all of the feasibility work has been done to inform potential design of the stations, which would include a route that would go out of Swansea High Street up past Landor, through the Llansamled Enterprise Zone out to Llandarcy, loop round, come back in, go past Morriston Hospital, down to Balindra, out to Pontarddulais, down then back through Gowerton, Cocket into the city centre. So that route is already designed. All we've got to do now is to make sure we get some money at our government colleagues to actually fund it, and we've been lobbying on that, as you can well imagine. But that was a bit, I think, of the nonsense that happened before, which was you can't just plonk a station in the middle without it being connected to other stuff, because otherwise it potentially harms the city centre station, but also increases car journey times, more importantly. So very keen for it to be established, Mark, but as part of a network.
Okay, thank you, Leader.
Okay, then Councillor Mike White.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, in regards to the regeneration in the city centre, are you able to advise in relation to the Swansea market? Because we are very proud of our market and seen as a jewel in the crown. But I know that there's obviously been designs about the sort of frontage of the market and the facades of the market. Do you have any update as to when? Plus, this work will be actually carried out and completed.
Chair, can I comment on that? I think yeah, the entrance ways you're referring to there, Councillor.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, we've done quite a bit of design work on that, and just finalising the funding to put in place for that. And then as soon as that's all in place, we'll be commencing works, and it's part of a wider package of investment at the market. Obviously, over the last couple of years, you'll have seen the public toilets go in there, the market garden setup that we've got, which has been very successful, and other things really in terms of promoting the market and events and all these sorts of things, and young enterprise. So I agree with you. It is very special for Swansea, and we're very keen to make as much of it as possible and keep it up there. It's been Britain's best large indoor market for well, it's certainly won it a few times over the last few years, and we'd like to see that continue. And I think the enhancement of the entrance phase will make a big difference to people, firstly locating it, but also the feel of the place as you come into the market. So yeah, as soon as we're able to, we'll be on site with that.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Chair.
Right, any further members? No. Can I ask about the Debenham store? I see the strip out works will be finished by Q3 of this year, and then we'll start. When will we have an idea about the companies that will be taking residence in there?
Taking the first question, Chair, first. Yes, the contractor is on site currently and starting the strip out works. That will continue until the early part of autumn, where it'll switch from stripping everything out of the building to actually then putting things back in the building, to allow the building to be split for its new occupiers. So you'd be aware from what we've been able to share with you at the moment that there's 2 retailers going on the ground floor on a leisure operator. Above their household names, you will know that. There's confidentiality clauses currently with those retailers. So we're hoping, I'm very much hoping by late summer that they will give their consent to us actually sharing with you who they will be.
Okay, and then at the same time, we'll know the costs of the strip out and the redevelopment of those stores towards the end of the year.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. There is one other item on that page which I need to ask you about because of one of the issues that I brought up over many years ago, and that is the proposal on the Velindre one, the proposal received for residential area outside the business park. Now, I have to say that over the years, this has been a big bone of contention as far as I'm concerned. We were told back many years ago, and I remember the Assembly member Edwina Hart saying this was one of the principal development sites in Wales, right on the M4 with a railhead, a railway line running alongside it. One of our principal development areas. I don't know how many years ago that was. It was quite a number of years ago, and when we put this site out for development, I was told by one of the officers that when we put it forward for development, one company that I'm thinking of now was the glass manufacturer that was to go to Tregear, but is now actually pulled out of Wales, that the site was too small. And yet that site was one of the largest development sites in South Wales. But we allowed residential development to take over some of that site. Now, I don't know who made that decision. It may have been the Welsh Government. It may have been out of our hands. But is this proposal now additional to that, so the business park is made smaller?
I'll come in on that, Chair, if that's okay. No, this is in perfect alignment with the current allocation within the local development plan. So the local development plan, you've got the brownfield site, which is the strategic development site for business and industry. That's as it is laid out, and you can see there's we're dealing with heads of terms there for 7 and 6B. So that no change there. So this is the greenfield land which wraps around the Velindre site, which is allocated in the LDP for residential-led development. So yeah, and this is a sort of the inquiry that we've had. So we're dealing with that with Welsh Government as part of the joint venture, and that will hopefully proceed, but there's a long way to go with it. Of course, it's a major allocation, a strategic development site for housing, but it's good to see the interest because market conditions are what they are, and it's good to see that Velindre is considered a viable opportunity.
Is it viable for residential development, or is it?
It's purely residential, yes. Well, effectively a new settlement, isn't it? As per the LDP allocation for strategic development sites.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. Then we move on to the next page, which is Lower Swansea Valley Levelling Up Schemes, Civic Centre, Decant, and Asova. Lee, Phil, do you know? Do you want to make a comment on it first before I bring in Councillor Black?
I'll wait for Councillor Black's question and then we'll address any of them.
Okay. Well, okay. Councillor Black.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. On Asova, when last time we had this in front of the committee, we were assured that the costs which were there in place would be the final costs. We're now being told that the costs have escalated due to unforeseeable and design changes, but we are seeking additional funding from the Welsh Government. Are the additional costs going to be entirely covered by funding we can get from the Welsh Government, or are we going to have to borrow more money to cover those costs? And what are the nature of these design changes which have caused that escalation?
Thank you, Chair. I don't have that
Really?
level of detail, I'm afraid. I'd have to refer back to my colleagues in corporate property running the project. I don't know whether, Paul, you can address, because I know the funding. If you wouldn't mind, I'll take that away and I'll get you a written response and come back to you with a detailed note. Leader?
Okay. Leader, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just to give a partial answer on this, and again, I'll do so on the basis that may need a further correction when we get the full information through. I do not believe that we would need to borrow for any of the additional costs that are there. Certainly, that's not the case. And in terms of the Welsh Government, I believe that's what we're applying for, so that the total, any total additional adjusted cost would be covered by additional support from Welsh Government. That's the aim. But again, wait for the full response from officers.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on anything on this page? I see the Lower Swansea Valley levelling up schemes. Can we have an update on what's actually happening with that? And does this link into the Strand development and the Arches development as well? Or is this just around the Landor site and the development of the Musgrove engine site and the whole of the Cobblework site? Paul?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So principally, the scheme is driven by the Cobblework site itself, which is the schemes that are listed there and the various dates that you can see. Plus, we've pulled in some additional shared prosperity funds to move the pontoons element along, which is linked to the Strand and includes a pontoon at that end, as well as the Bascule Bridge reinstatement. There are pressures on the overall programme because cost increases, but we are working with Welsh Government to look at and Heritage Fund to look at further funding to be able to support projects 2 and 3 in their entirety.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? No? That's the final page in that. Can I thank both Lee and Phil and Paul for their input into these items, and then and thank you for that. So the next item on the agenda is item 8, which is the work plan. Everybody happy with that work plan? Okay, well, thank you very much. Item 9 are the letters. Any comments? No? Right, then we go on to the exclusion of the public. This is because the next item we're going to talk about has confidentiality where the contracts and the business plans for the project are going to be discussed. And as a result, we are being informed that it should be done in private. If that's being the case, can somebody move the regulation that we have it in a private session? I have Councillor Linda James has moved it, seconded. Councillor Black. Okay, thank you very much. Can I say that Rachel will be recording it for her own notes only. Once